And we were very lucky to witness his incredible talent, his handsome smile, and his beautiful, beautiful heart. So whether you knew him personally or just as Finn Hudson, Cory reached out, and he became a part of all of our hearts. And that's where he'll...
Ladies and gentlemen of Great Britain, the cast of Glee. Wow. Come around here. That was terrific. Thank you so much. Welcome to Britain. Thank you. So listen, why are you guys over here right now? You got a tour next year, is that right?
Yeah, we have a tour coming up.
Are you guys gonna come?
Tour coming up, you got what? DVD, CDs out, all of that, yeah?
Yes, we have Best of Season 1, Glee, and we have our Christmas album out right now, so you go get it.
We're on it. Now listen, one last question. Who is scarier to sing in front of, Sue Sylvester or him?
Simon!
There you go. Cool. You didn't look too scared of him, I tell you that. Okay, give it up for the cast of Glee. All right, back to business. This is your 5-minute warning. Lines will be closing very soon. You are voting to put your favourite into this year's X Factor final. It is now or never. One act has to go. Plus, after the break, one of the biggest bands on the planet right now, the Black Eyed Peas, will be right here. We'll see you in a minute.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Queen's Find Me Somebody to Love may be one of the songs sung in the show, but the irreverent TV musical comedy Glee, centering on a high school glee club, has certainly had no problem in finding people to love it. Viewers and critics have been united in their affection for the series since it debuted early this fall, and Glee's uniqueness is part of its charm. The hit show, created by Ryan Murphy of Nip Tuck and Popular fame, isn't your usual teenage soap opera. It's got music, humor, and edge. Some have described it as High School Musical meets Election or Bring It On, but one of the show's stars, Cory Monteith, prefers to characterize it this way. It's like High School Musical has been punched in the stomach and had its lunch money stolen. Cory Monteith plays the handsome high school football star Finn Hudson, whose secret love of singing leads him to join the Glee Club, made up of a motley collection of aspiring underdogs. It's a breakout success story for Cory Monteith, and an interesting twist, given that the 27-year-old Victoria, BC-raised actor left high school himself in grade 9. Cory Monteith joins me live now in Studio Q. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
It's a good pleasure to have you here. Now, you've just come back from Calgary, which is where you were born, actually.
Yeah.
And you were presenting at the Gemini Awards this weekend. What's it like to be back in Canada? Do you feel like you've returned triumphant to your country after conquering America?
Well, I mean, it's all happened so fast, you know, and it's hard. It's wonderful to come back in a way because it's such a great way to have a homecoming in one sense, but at the same time, you know, I hope I want to feel like I paid my dues in a way, you know. I feel like it's all happened so quick.
You don't feel like you've paid your dues?
Well, you know, I put in some time, you know, doing one-liners and doing little things and little stuff like that. But I was in a room with like Canadian television Illuminati that night, and so it's such an honor, and I'm just like this new kid who got this show in the States, you know. So it's bittersweet.
And you played drums with Mike Reno of Loverboy.
Yeah.
Although you didn't sing. They should have got you to sing.
Yeah, the Fox doesn't like it. Fox has a real stiff thing about us singing outside of the show.
Really?
Yeah, I think they don't want us to embarrass ourselves.
Really? So
Seriously,
on the
yeah.
show, why?
Well, I think
you can't sing outside of the show?
they don't like us going to sing outside of the show because we could hit a sour note and then bang, it's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
And so can't sing. You know. So
Glee had this enormous buzz surrounding it, even before its debut this fall. And since it's become one of this season's most talked about shows, did you suspect you were part of something special when you first joined this cast in this show?
When I first read the script, I didn't know. You know, I thought there was going to be a lot left to execution as far as direction and production and everything. When I first saw the pilot, I knew we had something really, really special on our hands. And I thought, you know, if this finds an audience, I think it's going to be a really big deal. But I thought it's either going to be a dismal failure and no one was going to watch it, no one was going to get it, or it was going to be a huge success.
What did you worry that people wouldn't get?
Music, singing and dancing in television. You know, that's typically not directed at a broad audience. And this is a network show. You know, this wasn't a cable show. This wasn't FX or Showtime or something. This was Fox Network. So it had to be palatable enough to appeal to a broad audience, and that was the trick, and I mean that was the real challenge.
Before getting your big break, and this is a huge break with Glee, and you're doing great on the show. You were a working Vancouver actor, grew up in the Vancouver Island, but then you were in Vancouver more recently, and you had roles in movies like Final Destination 3, as well as a bunch of guest spots, TV shows like Smallville. How did you end up landing this role on Glee as Finn Hudson?
Wow, it's such a long shot. When I think back, I sent a tape down through my manager in Vancouver to an agent that I'd recently gotten in the States, and it was just one of many tapes that Vancouver actors send south, to try their hand at these projects to shoot down there. And I had no visa or no work papers or anything down there, and originally they wanted somebody who could sing and dance, and that wasn't me. I mean, I'd never sang or danced or anything like that before. I was a drummer, as are you, I hear.
Yes.
And so I in lieu of the singing, dancing part of the tape, I sent myself playing the drums on the Tupperware and mugs and wine glasses and stuff with unsharpened pencils, because that's what we had in the office, and it was my manager's idea. Well, we need to show them your musicality. We need to show you that you have musical. And this tape went down and didn't hear anything for a while. And then they invited me to come down. One of the casting directors said, you should come and meet Ryan Murphy and Reed. And but we like you, but not
Hang on
enough.
a second, just a couple steps back. How did you even think you would stand a chance if you say that this was out of your league in terms of singing and dancing and all of that?
I didn't think I would stand a chance. I literally was following. I was just. The one thing you learn how to do in Vancouver as a working actor is you learn how to kind of bend yourself into roles, and you learn how to figure out any way possible to qualify yourself as the guy for the job.
I'll make it happen.
I'll make it happen.
Right.
And that's just what you get used to.
Right.
So it was like,
That's
well, I'll
great.
show them something I can do.
Right.
And I'm the drummer.
So they send you down there.
So they send me down. I mean, they liked me, but they wouldn't test me and fly me down. So they liked me, but not that much. And at the time, so I drove from Vancouver to L.A. 20 hours.
Right.
And
By yourself.
By myself. Just me, the Rent soundtrack, and Billy Joel's greatest hits. Because I had to figure out something to sing for this thing, too, right?
Right.
So I was learning all these songs in the car to sing and literally driving down there. I got there, and it was...
Are you serious? You've never sung before?
No, nothing.
You've never sung before?
No.
Never.
Like
you played in bands and stuff, but you never sang in them?
Yeah. No. I mean, and you would invite me out to karaoke, and I would say no. I was too nervous to sing in front of people.
And by the way, some of the other stars of Glee, the major stars, come from Broadway.
Yeah.
I mean, they've made a name for themselves internationally as singers.
Tony-nominated Broadway
So you're
performers,
driving down the West Coast with Billy Joel's greatest hits.
You got it.
Good place to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to sing.
You got it.
So you get there.
I get there, and there's 25 other guys for the same part at this callback I show up to. And we all looked roughly the same, football player-ish looking dudes. And I go into the room, and I sing Billy Joel Honesty for Ryan Murphy and co. and the casting director. And it was like they liked it, and they said, we'd like to test you for Fox. And so I think a couple of days later I went back and did the same thing, sang the same song and read the scenes or auditioned for, 20 or 30 network executives at Fox in West LA. And
Why'd you pick Honesty? That's a tough song. It's a sweet song.
Well, it's kind of, I don't know. I've always been drawn to ballads,
right?
Kind of rock ballads like that, and it's so funny because it's exactly
Honesty is such a
that's the song,
right?
And
what is it? What word is it? Is such a
lonely word.
Lonely word. That's it. Yeah. Okay.
Everyone is so untrue. Honesty.
Oh, Cory Monteith.
Oh, it's so deep.
Yeah.
Such
and so then what? So you sing it twice.
Sang it, again for Fox, and
at this point you got to be going. Look, they're asking me for callbacks here.
Yeah, I mean, I was in front of all these people.
Yeah.
I was testing at that point for Fox. It was just me and two other dudes at the studio, at the network, at the Fox big network building. Like big deal network building. And I was like, oh, well, this is a big deal. And I left, and I thought it went well. And I was having breakfast with a friend, half an hour away at this restaurant in L.A., and I got a call, and it was my manager and my agent and like four people on like a conference call. They're like, you got it.
Wow.
Half an hour later, and I was like,
so where does the REO Speedwagon song come in?
The REO Speedwagon song was...
I thought you sang that as for the audition. Is that
think
a myth?
I sang it for the first tape that I sent, but it was I'm not sure. You know, I'm not even sure to this day whether or not it made the cut as stuff that my manager included to send to them.
Because it's in the pilot.
It's in the pilot.
You're
and
singing it in the shower.
and that's why I saw it in the pilot. It was written in the script that I got for the pilot, and so I was like, well, I'm going to sing that song. You see, I just picked the one out. You could pick any song you like. I just picked the one out of the pilot.
So Cory, then you get this gig.
Uh-huh.
It's obviously going well. I mean, you couldn't hope for it to go even better. I mean, it's a number one show.
Big deal.
But I guess along the way, and so you've got the confidence that comes with being on a big show like that, but along the way, you're still learning to sing and dance and act at the same time, right?
Yeah.
How,
You got it.
How is that going?
Well, I mean, it's not so much learning to sing and dance and act along the way. It's learning to sing and dance and act for television on a television schedule, because it's very demanding, because we do an episode in 8 days. You know, so to put together a dance number and to record, you know, anywhere between 3 and 7 or 8 tracks, professionally in the studio, you know, inside of that schedule, it is so much work, and it doesn't allow you really the time to be bad in a way. You kind of got to hit the ground running and just nail it as often as possible. And so, I mean, I hope I'm doing a good job. It seems like people like it, you know.
Have you, I mean, even given what you said about being the Vancouver actor and just going for it, and knowing that you'll adapt, you're the chameleon, you'll become what you need to become.
Yeah.
Have you surprised yourself
Absolutely.
by just how good you've been at this?
Absolutely. I mean, if you would have told me that this is what I would have been doing, you know, a year and a half ago, I would have laughed you out of the room. I mean, I didn't even have, for me, the number one thing is confidence as a singer. And I think that's for a lot of singers out there, I imagine. You know, it's just having the confidence to sing how you are able to actually sing. I think we all have ability, but it's just about, you know, having the confidence to sing. And that's been the biggest growing, the biggest part of growth on my behalf is just being able to sing confidently.
And now there's an album out that's like storming up the charts, and you're singing on it.
Yeah,
it's a great story.
The single has gone gold. It's been certified gold now.
The pilot of Glee first aired in May after the season finale of American Idol, which seemed fitting considering many have characterized Glee as a comment on the earnestness of shows like American Idol and the High School Musical movies. Do you see the show that way? Do you see it as a satire or some sort of commentary on the American Idol type shows in the zeitgeist now?
Yeah, well, that's the perfect way to describe it. Is exactly that. It is satirical. It does have an element of, I mean, it sort of makes fun of itself in a way, you know, and of a lot of the characters on the show. So it is exactly that. It's commentary on the zeitgeist.
And you must have been asked about this, but this takes place in a high school, and you've left high school when you were in grade 9 yourself. This is all kinds of interesting
It's a little ironic
twists and
there.
turns. Yeah. So why did you leave high school?
You know, I think it started at a very young age. I was I skipped a grade really young, and so I started because I could read really young. You know, I was very literate as a kid. And school, I wasn't interested in learning what they were having me learn when I was a kid. I don't know why. I just that's what I read in these report cards. My mom actually sent me them the other day, all these old report cards from grade 2 and grade 3. And it said, you know, Cory is not interested in learning what we are trying to teach him. And so you don't learn these things, and it kind of, the next grade gets harder because you didn't learn math in grade 4. So grade 5 is harder and harder and harder. And, you know, I just wanted always to get out of school, you know.
And then you go on, so I guess in your teens and into your 20s, you go on to an assortment of jobs. You're a roofer, you're a Walmart greeter. I love that one. and a taxi and a cab driver.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so then when did you get the inkling that acting might be something for you?
Well, I was living in Nanaimo.
Although apparently whatever you decide you want to do, you can do it within 9 months and become a star. So that's not that. But how did the acting? When did you make the turn into becoming that Vancouver actor you've talked about being?
Yeah, I was living in Nanaimo, and I was kind of at a loose end. And as you said, I was working as a telemarketer for a while over there. I was working as a taxi driver for I think a week or something, and I was working as a roofer mainly. And so all these, you know, sort of just knocking around. And somebody said, you know, I have this friend who runs an acting studio, and they teach acting classes, and this great teacher comes from Vancouver, you know, once a week, and you should take his class or meet him at least. And I thought, you know, why? What am I going to do? Community theater? What am I going to do? I mean, I'm trying to pay the rent, you know. Why am I going to be an actor? What's that? And I met him, and his name is Andrew McElroy. He's a great teacher. He teaches out of Vancouver, and he said, read this play, read this script, or whatever. And I came back and I read it, and I did a scene in the class. And after knowing me for a couple of weeks, he said, "You could do this. You have a potential. You have an ability." And he's like, "You could be employed in television or film doing this." He's like, "This is what I do in Vancouver." He's like, "I teach classes, and I'm an actor, and I get paid to do this." And I was like, "They pay you to do this? What do you mean?" And so I was like, "That's great. That's fantastic. I don't want to be a telemarketer. I want to."
But now, and do you think that some of that stuff that you were doing, the roofer, the Walmart greeter, actually informs your abilities as an actor?
100%. And I mean, I've always been that chameleon. I've always been that transient chameleon, doing whatever it needs, whatever I have to do to get myself by. And that's absolutely, it kind of makes you a bit of a quick study, in later life. So you learn quickly how to adapt to any kind of situation.
Sometimes it's good to have that experience.
It absolutely is.
Glee is this TV show that balances, and by the way, everybody who works on this show, we're just huge fans of this program you're in. It balances a kind of sharp, almost satiric humor that we've talked about high school life, with an emotional depth.
Yeah.
It takes the teenage experience seriously. There's an element of Revenge of the Nerds at times, in a very positive and sensitive way. How do you negotiate that balance as an actor, taking the piss and at the same time sensitively living what is that difficult high school experience?
Yeah, it's interesting because especially for my character, because he's kind of a lout, he's kind of a boorish he's a bit of a dummy at times,
but he's also innocent in some ways, right?
There's a very childlike innocence to him, and I think I have to be very specific about the moments when I'm taking the piss out of characters like myself, like the Chris Klein American Pie guy,
right?
Making fun of ourselves in that satirical type of humor, and then find the moments when there's a truth, there's a kind of innocent truth underneath it all that has a sort of responsibility to what the high school experience is and how hard it is for a lot of kids. And for, I mean, there's a character on the show in a wheelchair, and most recently we had this show where we were, talking about characters in wheelchairs, and it had to take sort of a responsibility to not just push people down the stairs and lock them in toilets or whatever, but kind of acknowledge the fact that life is harder for people like that, and that's kind of the balance that you're talking about between the satire and the heart, the truth, and the show has to walk that line. And Ryan Murphy he's a gifted showrunner, and I think he knows how to get that balance right.
You've said that there's a naivete to Finn, to your character, that you identify with.
Absolutely.
Tell me about that.
Well, it was when I was very young, there was 9 or 10, 11 years old. There's a certain childlike innocence that I think we all have, that I think Finn I grew up real fast, myself. And I think Finn is sort of on the cusp of that, sort of growing up into adulthood in a way. And so I can relate on that sense from when I was much younger. Now I'm bitter and jaded and old.
We talk about you being a Calgary-born guy, that Vancouver Island experience, and then living in Vancouver. You're a Canadian guy. This is a really American show.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an American TV show about the quintessential American high school experience of football, cheerleaders, Glee Club. Not something I experienced in high school in Thornhill, Ontario. Being an outsider to all that, does that allow you to approach the role from a different perspective? Is that difficult for you, or is it something that you consider an asset?
It's an asset because I don't have my own experience coloring it. I can look at exactly what the satirical kind of, and that's where a lot of the satire comes from, is that all American high school experience, and I can look at it from the zeitgeist and from how movies have portrayed it and how culture has portrayed it over the years. And you know a lot about the American high school experience just from watching the films and seeing the shows and everything else. And that's where it comes from for me.
Do they know on set that you're the Canadian guy?
I make it known.
How do you make it known?
Loud and proud.
Yeah.
No, I tell everybody. I just say I'm Canadian all the time. I mean, it's a common thing to hear me say, actually.
And what is it like on the set? What's the culture of the set now? Is it really is it fun making the show? It looks like this show would be fun, but obviously there's a lot of pressure. You're turning it around very quickly. You've got a hit show. Tell me about how it feels working with those other young actors now.
Well, it feels amazing. I mean, it's we have to work so hard, so fast, and put everything together for such a condensed timeline, like I was saying. But at the same time, we all don't really know how to make this kind of show. I think all the way down from Ryan Murphy, all the way down through the writing staff, it's kind of a new concept, a show like this, music. And so we're all figuring it out, and we are all kind of learning and growing and as a group. And so there's a very kind of collaborative feel to it. And so as much as it is a lot of work, we're all having the time of our lives, really. I mean, we're not sleeping as much as we'd like to, but it's fantastic.
What's your favorite song to sing? What's been your favorite singing performance?
Actually, if you catch tonight's episode, it's called Ballad. I got a solo on tonight's episode. You might want to tune in. I'm really excited about. I sing "Stand by You" by the Pretenders. So this is you can download it on iTunes. Right
Nice. What a savvy way, a segue into promoting tonight's episode. 9 p.m. Global
9 p.m.,
Television,
8
another
Central.
network. Now you know what I'm doing here, right? I've got all this stuff set up here. Because we didn't bring in the drum kits, but I've got 2 pencils for you, 2 pencils for me. Got some Tupperware. So I'm gonna give you here. We'll just do a little jam here. You can just solo, right? I'll do boom, boom. I'm just gonna give you quarter notes. Yeah.
Elena would be proud. My pencil broke. I'm not going to be drinking this water anymore.
It's hard to come to an end. How do you end that?
I know.
You got Tupperware.
I threw all the Tupperware off the desk, actually, when we were shooting. I started throwing it across the room.
Well, you're welcome to do that here, too.
Well, there we
It's
go.
a lot of job. Cory Monteith, it's such a great pleasure to have you here, man.
Pleasure.
Congrats on everything.
Thank you.
Keep it up. We'll be watching, and we'll look for your solo turn tonight.
You got to watch it.
Cory Monteith, again, thanks for being here. Calgary-born actor Cory Monteith. He plays Finn Hudson on the hit musical comedy series Glee. And Cory Monteith joined me here in Studio Q.
Fantastic.
What's your favorite song to sing? What's been your favorite singing performance?
Actually, if you catch tonight's episode, it's called Ballad. I got a solo on tonight's episode. You might want to tune in. I'm really excited about. I sing "Stand by You" by the Pretenders. So this is you can download it on iTunes. Right
Nice. What a savvy way, a segue into promoting tonight's episode. 9 p.m. Global
9 p.m.,
Television,
8
another
Central.
network. Now you know what I'm doing here, right? I've got all this stuff set up here. Because we didn't bring in the drum kits, but I've got 2 pencils for you, 2 pencils for me.
Got
Got some Tupperware. So I'm gonna give you here. We'll just do a little jam here. You can just solo, right? I'll do boom, boom. I'm just gonna give you quarter notes. Yeah.
Elena would be proud. My pencil broke. I'm not going to be drinking this water anymore.
It's hard to come to an end. How do you end that?
I know.
You got Tupperware.
I threw all the Tupperware off the desk, actually, when we were shooting. I started throwing it across the room.
Well, you're welcome to do that here, too.
Well, there we
It's
go.
a lot of job. Cory Monteith, it's such a great pleasure to have you here, man.
Pleasure.
Congrats on everything.
Thank you.
Keep it up. We'll be watching, and we'll look for your solo turn tonight.
You got to watch it.
Cory Monteith, again, thanks for being here. Calgary-born actor Cory Monteith. He plays Finn Hudson on the hit musical comedy series Glee. And Cory Monteith joined me here in Studio Q.